just setting up, just sharing my stream link on things. Okay, let me tweet about it quick. All right, live streaming, cancelling the MCU right now. Link. All right. All right, let me just put it on Instagram. All right, 1 second, everyone. Live streaming now. Shit, that just reminded me. I need to get the based Martin Scorsese quote. All right, live streaming now. Yeah. Steady. All right. All right, I just forgotten that in preparation for the stream, I'm gonna get them up now. I wanted to get up. I want to get up all the quotes by famous directors who hate on the MCU because I fucking find them absolutely hilarious. Ridley Scott's. Oh my god, Ridley Scott's comments on the MCU just make me absolutely crack out. He literally does not give a fuck. Yeah, let me get. I'm gonna read them later, but absolutely love it. So my computer's been a bit slow. I think I have too many Google Chrome tabs open, I think. Oh. Let me just change something. And then hey everyone, I see people in the chat. I'm just trying to. Computer's running a little slow, so. That seems better. So. Hey everyone. Just look at the ridiculous prices that everything. With everything Disney parks, and it will be all you need to see. Yeah, the thing with the Disney parks, we only have one in Paris, which I've only been to when I was a kid, so I don't really know about the prices of that stuff. If Walt Disney was alive, I think he'd be ashamed to see what has become of his company. I don't know too much about him, to be honest, apart from the stuff I've talked about in my video, like him being a union buster and helping out with the anti-communist stuff in the 40s and 50s. Is MCU ruining cinema? No, not really. Cinema is alive and well if you look in the right places. There's incredible work all around the world at this time. I don't disagree, but I do want to kind of give my own opinion on all this stuff. So I'm just getting some music on my phone. Hey Hardy, thanks for joining. Yeah, I live stream usually 2 times a week. I was sick last week, so I only did it on Saturday. I finally don't have COVID anymore, actually. That's the good thing. I had COVID for like 9 days. I felt awful the first couple. I've been feeling okay lately, so it's good I don't have it anymore. What song should I play? Every MCU film at least meets my expectations because all I expect is a visual spectacle. I watch them like a B movie almost. Fun, big fight stuff strung together with basic action movie plot. Here's the thing though. Answer me this, like, because I think this is an important part of a movie. Can you even remember any of the score for any of the Marvel films apart from the Avengers theme tune? Like, can you literally remember anything? That's what. And here's another question I got for people: Have you ever watched? Have you ever, when you were bored, just watched a Marvel movie that you've already watched? I have never done that. I have never watched a Marvel movie twice. Pretty much. I can't think of one. Have I seen The Boys? No, I haven't seen The Boys. M Blood T, you make a point I want to actually talk about right now. So M Blood T was saying, I want to support original movies like Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, but my theatres aren't even screening them, and plays very nicely into what I want to talk about. So maybe let's just start talking. Well, actually, how many people in the chat have we got? One sec. Yeah, let me just make this bigger. All right, so I'll probably talk about this again later, but look, the AMC in Times Square has 70 different screenings of Doctor Strange today. So this is what kind of inspired me wanting to talk about this. Like 70 screenings. Look at that. 3 p.m., 3:05, 3:15, 3:30, 3:45, 4:15. How can you need this many screenings of this film? Like, seriously, that is absolute insanity. Also, who's going to see Doctor Strange at 2 a.m.? And they made a good point in the chat. Sorry, I forgot your name. That think of all the films that could be screening, right? This Doctor Strange is not the only film out. And then why are they screening this so much? Because I guess they're just trying to. Okay, I think it's very excessive, but I guess there's a demand for this many screenings of it in New York, possibly. Like in Times Square, you need to show a Marvel movie every 10 minutes. Like you need a new screening of it. I don't know, in case someone want to go to the bathroom and come back and not miss anything. And so the thing is, what I'll say, and I'll probably reiterate this in a bit. I'm gonna take some more comments before I start. I think is that I don't think the MCU is inherently ruining cinema because of the content, but I do think the content is a bit of a part of the problem. I think it's mainly corporations like Disney not having a monopoly, because there are other big studios, but I feel like it is going towards them having a monopoly on entertainment, mainly TV and film. Yeah, Getsbog saying, with the exception of Guardians of the Galaxy, I've rarely watched a Marvel film more than once. The only Marvel film I think I've watched twice or more than once is Iron Man, the first one. Yeah, so Jude agreeing with me there. Yeah, to crowd the rest, yeah. Me and the homies going to see Doctor Strange at 2 a.m. Yeah, do people go see movies at 2 a.m.? Black Panther saying, every movie in the major cinemas here at some sort of IP, I have to go out the way to see art house. The audience has moved to streaming, I fear. Yeah. I mean, I will. The thing is, I said this in the last stream. I will go and watch. No, I will watch Doctor Strange maybe one day. You could not pay me to go see it. Like, I have no motivation ever at the moment to go and see a Marvel movie in the cinema. Like even Spider-Man, which I was a bit hyped for because of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man being in it, and the Andrew Garfield one because I kind of like grew up with those two Spider-Mans, and they're just better Spider-Mans anyway. I do find it funny. The only good Spider-Man movie that Marvel have done is a Spider-Man movie that includes better Spider-Mans from better Spider-Man films. I think the Amazing Spider-Man 1 is better than the MCU Spider-Man, and I think obviously all the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans are better than the MCU Spider-Mans. Also, people hating on Spider-Man 3 is literally not one of the most iconic films ever. Like that scene when he's going down the road to that James Brown song, and just so many fucking quotable lines, man. Like absolutely legendary. They bully the theaters. Well, yeah, like here's the thing about like capitalism MCU stuff, right? So on screen for people who are just joining, I have an AMC theater in New York that has 70 screenings in one day of Doctor Strange. but it's because that's what people want to see, right? And honestly, I think people have been conditioned. I think audiences have been conditioned in some ways to want what the MCU is selling, and I also think films like Ready Player One have a big effect on this. Like, people just want to go see movies so they because they reference other things now. Like, I don't know if you saw the trailer for that new the Chip and Dale film, and it has like references to Kingdom Hearts in it. Like, it's meant to be like another like Ready Player One, and I'm like, what the fuck does this movie have references to Kingdom Hearts? But it's because they want people to go in to watch that film because they like Kingdom Hearts. Like, it's like that Space Jam film. Why is it like Pennywise from It? Why is it Foxy in Space Jam? Why is Batman and the Joker in Space Jam? And it's like trying to just get this massive appeal. And it's like with MCU stuff, this multiverse of madness. Part of the appeal is it's putting in loads of, I'm not going to spoil it, I haven't seen it. It's putting in, but allegedly, it's putting in loads of stuff, random stuff from the MCU that's interesting. Like characters maybe you haven't seen before, different takes on different characters you have seen before, and that's to pull people in. Because there's actually like, obviously like a massive industry on YouTube of channels that just like break down films. Like Emergency Awesome, is that, I think maybe I used to watch that when I was like 18 or something. And it's like the FOMO as well is the part of it. And I was thinking this when I was watching it, and I got a quote from like Elizabeth Olsen talking about Marvel movies, is you literally have to watch WandaVision to understand Doctor Strange. WandaVision is a Disney Plus show, 6 hours, like there's bigger commitment. And I'm not spoiling anything. You literally have to watch that because that's like the order of the MCU stuff. Like, you have to understand. I don't know, like, I'm guessing a lot of the story from WandaVision applies to Doctor Strange, otherwise why would she be in it? But now you have to have a Disney Plus subscription and watch that show to understand one of the biggest blockbusters of the year. And it's just trying to get people on the hook for all this stuff. And that's the thing with Marvel, is it's about the FOMO. Like, you have people like me who don't really give a shit. Like, I haven't seen Doctor Strange 1, not going to see 2, haven't seen Black Panther, don't give a shit about Guardians of the Galaxy 3, thought the second one was like one of the worst films I've ever seen. The new 4 movie, like, maybe I'll watch that one day because the third one was quite funny. But it's like, now they have people, it's like, okay, you've got to watch. Apparently, you even have to watch What If now, that cartoon one, because it's canon. So you've got to watch What If, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, and WandaVision just to understand what's going on. Like, otherwise, you're missing a big part of it. And then, even if you can kind of appreciate the film on its own merits, you still have to like go back maybe and watch that to understand what's going on. And I think it's like really like the cynic in me is like they want people to buy these products just so they don't miss out. And you feel like you have to, because the thing is, for me, obviously 2008, I was 12 years old. So watching the MCU from then until the second part of the Avengers, like that's like enough for me. Like, I don't care anymore now because that was like a nice ending point. And the thing is, I've watched the MCU shows on Disney Plus just because I was bored, and they're solid enough. But I want to get onto that a bit later because I think that's going to go badly as well. But yeah, I think FOMO is a massive part of it, and also they're just meeting demand. But I think here's the problem with MCU films, is just they're all the same. Now, how can I compare it? I'd say an MCU film is like an episode of The Simpsons, where by the end of it, nothing fundamentally will have changed, or if something has changed, it's something that doesn't really matter, right? So, for example, in The Simpsons, you have things that happen in this over the course of The Simpsons. Characters have died, like Maud, Ned Flanders' wife, has died. Edna Krabappel has died because the actress died, so they wrote her out of the show, and it is like she's dead in the show. But at the end of the day, Homer, Bart, Marge, Maggie, Lisa, they're pretty much the same. Like, you have story arcs like, Bleeding Gums Murphy, other stuff like that, but fundamentally, the show starts and ends the same way. Like, it has to continue. And I feel like that with the MCU, right? Like, there are moments where big things happen, right? Like, end of Avengers, people must have seen Avengers by now. Like, at the end of the Avengers, certain characters are killed off, right? Certain major characters are killed off. But then, in essence, they're replaced. So, like, who replaces Iron Man, Spider-Man, who replaces Captain America, Sam Wilson, and in essence, nothing has really changed apart from lesser characters have fulfilled the role of other characters. And the problem is that means when you watch a film like this, there are no stakes. Because what are the stakes? What could possibly happen? Is Spider-Man going to die when I watch this film? No. Is anything significant going to happen to like his auntie? Probably not. Is anything significant going to happen to his friends? Probably not. Same with Doctor Strange. Is Doctor Strange going to die in this movie? Is WandaVision going to die or Wanda going to die in this movie? Haven't seen it. Highly doubt it. I highly doubt anything happens in this movie that will change anything significant. And that's why it's annoying. Like, do you have to literally watch? You literally have to wait for Avengers, like the end of the first phase or the second phase of the MCU, for something to actually happen, something of actual stakes. And then, what pissed me off so bad with Avengers, with the Thanos snap, I groaned like after seeing it because I'm like, why that is such bullshit is because they've literally announced. This is before like Chadwick Boseman obviously died. They've announced Black Panther 2. They've announced a new Spider-Man. They've announced all these films, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And I meant to think about like, oh, Thanos has just killed like half his characters, but they've already announced all these characters have new movies, right? If they didn't announce these characters had new movies, you'd be like, oh, holy shit, like, is this for real? But because they announced all these movies, you're like, this is stupid because I know they're all coming back because they have a movie coming out next year that's about them. Like, it's so stupid. It was a really cool moment that if you did that moment without announcing those films, it would be so cool because then you actually thinking, although like in the back of your mind you're like, I don't think these characters are all dead, but then in the back of your mind you're like, well, I don't know, like maybe some of them don't come back. But then they're like, oh yeah, we got all these films lined up. Like, aren't you so excited for Ant-Man 2 or some shit? Like, I don't know, was Ant-Man 2 before or after? I don't even know. And then it's like they want you just to like they don't want anything to change significantly because it makes them too much money. And that's why Marvel is such a low risk film, and that's why I believe MCU films specifically are like these synthesized products. And also, I find it funny that Eternals and Doctor Strange are two of the lowest rated audience score MCU movies. Two movies where they actually hired directors with specific style, Sam Raimi, Chloe Zhao, and I find that really funny because it's like I don't even know who the fuck directs the Spider-Man movies. Apparently, it's a guy called John Watts. I don't even know what he has ever done before. I have never heard of this director, and I consider myself someone who knows like a fair bit about film. Like I knew who was it like Mark Webb, the director of the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Like, I know who that was before before he got it, and it's like you know who Sam Raimi is obviously for his like 80s and 90s films, but it's like who the fuck is this person? And the Russo brothers, like who were they before Winter Soldier? Like, did anyone know who these people were? Obviously, they're really famous now for taking the helm of the MCU films, and they've left now. And obviously, like Ryan Coogler is another one for Black Panther. Even though I thought Black Panther, aside from the aesthetics, was generic as hell as well. I don't think it was a good movie. So it's just like for me personally, there's multiple okay, on an actual film level, I don't care for these films because they don't make me feel anything. Like I was saying in my stream on Saturday when I was playing some video games, is like the moment I realized I don't give a shit about the MCU beside them entertaining me for like 2 hours is when I came out of the first Spider-Man MCU movie. I was with my friends and I was thinking I did not have anything to say about that movie. Like the only thing I said was like that was a good scene with Michael Keaton in the car, and it was funny when that Ned guy told the teacher he was watching porn instead of like helping Spider-Man. Like two funny moments, right? That is it. Did not. I remember I was like, I'm struggling to say anything about this film because it was so generic, and it was so generic for a superhero movie. It felt like it was made by an algorithm, and that's what these films feel like now. I haven't seen Doctor Strange, which could be different because it's Sam Raimi and stuff, but it feels like these movies are all made by an algorithm to pander. I wouldn't call it like the lowest common denominator. Like I'm being like you're an idiot. I mean like it has to be this entertainment that appeals to children and appeals to teens and adults in like a similar way, right? So I wouldn't call it like lowest common denominator, like it's really simplified and you have to understand everything. But I feel like it's very like they understand now what audiences like, and they're very scared to move away from that. And I said this before, like if you think Sam Raimi and Chloe Zhao had full creative control of their movies, you're deluding yourself, right? With the MCU, like for example, ever give Terrence Malick an MCU movie? Like, oh, Terrence Malick, can you direct me? I don't know, can you direct me an X-Men movie? And you know, if Terrence Malick would direct an X-Men movie, it pretty much would come out the same as all these other movies, right? Because there's no way they're letting Terrence Malick do. Terrence Malick directed like The Tree of Life, Thin Red Line, The New World, and stuff. There's no way they would let him do what he wanted with an MCU movie. The same way they're not going to let Sam Raimi. They wouldn't let Sam Raimi make Doctor Strange like Spider-Man 3, for example. Even though Spider-Man 3 had like heavy studio constraints, you know that movie is not made by an algorithm, right? Those old Spider-Man movies, you know they weren't like synthesized down to like a product which they knew would do well because they're so camp. Like Spider-Man 3 is absolutely ridiculous, but that's what makes it so good, right? I'll take Spider-Man 3 over any MCU movie. But the problem with that film, they forced him to put Venom in it as well. But it's still it still has its own style, and it's like a really interesting movie. Where stuff like basically any MCU Spider-Man, but even the first Sony Amazing Spider-Man, I thought was pretty good. But it was like it was unique it was unique for a superhero movie because what the guy said, the director who did, was it like 500 Days of Summer? Is that what the movie's called? He said he wanted to make it more like a romance, not a romantic comedy, but like more like a romance, like teenage romance film mixed with an action film. And you got the vibe because Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's chemistry was so good, and then it had like an interesting choices for soundtracks and like just some good actors as well. And it had like a very unique, not very unique, but like very distinct style compared to other superhero movies, I'd say. Like it didn't feel, that's what I mean. I feel like all MCU movies now, like I said, it feels like it's made by an algorithm. It feels like they feel soulless, I think is the word I'm looking for. And their entertainment for sure. Like and I think the problem is even someone like me who feels this way, I can appreciate these things are entertainment, right? Like I can appreciate for 2 hours I watch them and it's not the worst thing ever. I think is the biggest compliment I can give it. I don't hate watching it. Like I don't hate watching these things, but I also don't feel anything. Like, and I'd rather a movie which is bad or a movie that is like a 3 out of 5 or a 7 or 6 out of 10 that actually makes me feel something. So a movie I like to reference a lot because I don't. Two movies I like to reference a lot, and it's funny because they're directed by the same guy. Is The Lost City? Is The Lost City of Z? The Lost City of Z, starring Charlie Hunnam and Robert Pattinson, and Ad Astra, starring Brad Pitt, and I forgot what the director's called. But basically, those films, I have like a lot of problems with those films, and I think Ad Astra specifically, I have more problems with. But there's really interesting moments in those films which you can take away from them and be like, that was really cool. So in Ad Astra, I just recommend people watch this. If you never want to watch this movie, there's a scene in Ad Astra where he's like crossing the moon and there's like these insurgent groups coming to try and kill him on these lunar rovers. And the way that is filmed, like the shootout in space, is so interesting. It's so cool. And even like when he goes to space, it has like Subway, the fast food chain, and it's like very interesting view of like what the world will look like in the future. I don't think the film is great because it gets a bit weird. It's basically meant to be like Apocalypse Now in space, which is weird because Lost City of Z is a bit like Apocalypse Now as well. But like with Lost City of Z, like the last 20 minutes of that film is Tom Holland and Charlie Hunnam and Robert Pattinson. Is so good. The soundtrack is so good, and they filmed it all in like the jungle and stuff, and you can feel it. You can feel it when you watch that film. Like I wouldn't say it's my favorite film ever, but they're two like lesser known films, and you go and watch them. You're like, I really appreciate this part or this part or this part, and it made me feel something. And while it didn't like completely knock it out of the park for me, I really liked it. With an MCU movie, I watch it. That's fine. Never think about it again. Don't think about the soundtrack. Don't think about the cinematography. Don't think about anything because at the end of the day, it's so bland, and everything in those films, it literally just feels like it's like window dressing for the action, or maybe just scenes with actors. And I just don't think. Obviously, there's a lot of people, talented people, who do hard work on Marvel movies, but I think the things emphasized in the movies is detrimental to like maybe the other things. And then also, I'd say, don't know if you guys have watched the behind the scenes Mandalorian documentary for season 1. So I like Mandalorian, and I like these Marvel shows like Boba Fett, well, Marvel shows, Disney Star Wars shows. I like the animated stuff. I'm like a big fan of Star Wars. I think it just has a bit more interesting things going on than the MCU. A bit more stakes, I think, as well. But anyway, if you watch that movie, basically, or the behind the scenes, the way they film Mandalorian is in this big like aircraft hangar with like screens on the ceiling, on the walls, and what they basically do is like create a small set, and then they create the rest with like Unreal Engine, which is used for video games, and the technology is really advanced, where like you have reflections on surfaces and armor which look like really realistic, right? But the problem is, I think, as good as those shows look, in some regards, you can feel this, I guess, the sterileness of it. Like, you can feel this wasn't filmed in a real place. And I feel with Marvel movies, I feel the same. You can tell, no matter what scene it is, this was not filmed in a real place. Even if it's New York, most of the time, even if it's New York, it's on a green screen or on this new technology. And I think with two movies I'd point people to show you how far film has fallen off in terms of creating a realistic environment is the first Blade Runner 1982 and Once Upon a Time in America 1984. And specifically with Blade Runner, I'd say the opening scene of him in the noodle bar and the scene of him going to the bar where that stripper android is, and in Once Upon a Time in America, I'd say all the scenes when he's younger in that Jewish neighborhood of New York. And it's like the amount of extras they use and the real sets and everything just they make the film age really well, because you go back and you're like, this is amazing. Like, this feels like I'm watching something that is real. Whereas now you watch something, even Star Wars, which has crowded things, it's so clear it's not being done in the same way. And of course, you could say for costs, it's very hard to recreate like 1900s Jewish neighborhood New York with hundreds of extras. With Blade Runner, very hard to recreate this stuff again, although I think the second Blade Runner did a pretty good job of it. Which is fair enough, but at the same time, I think it loses so much. And that's another thing with the MCU movies, is like, it doesn't make me feel anything. I don't think it's necessarily well crafted in many ways, but I also cannot even appreciate it from a technical standpoint. Like, even if you don't even like Once Upon a Time in America, which is fair enough, you can appreciate the craft of the film and how it looks and the set and how much work was done to make it look this way. And also, it's quite funny that both the films I mentioned were actually hated when they first came out, and they were loved later when they had like director's cuts. But I watched those two films, and it's like, you just compare them to Marvel films, and like I said, I'm not talking about what's more entertaining or talking about like what's more action packed or anything like that. I'm just talking about like just the craft of Blade Runner and Once Upon a Time in America versus any MCU movie. And it's just depressing, because there are scenes in MCU movies where there are big crowds of people, like in New York or in like a different planet with the Guardians of the Galaxy or Thor and stuff like that. And it just feels so fake. And it feels so fake to the point I'm just like, I don't care, because I'm basically watching a video game now. And also, like, even with video games, I'm like, no, I'm not watching a video game, because there are lots of video games that I play, and it feels like way more effort being put into. Like, I play Last of Us 2. It feels like there's way more effort put into like the cinematography and the sets, obviously the virtual, than they are in the MCU. And I feel like my problem with all of this stuff is it's just so popular, and it's causing these trends, which I think it's really depressing, because it's like, can you reverse this trend of like mass film consumption? Like, film has never been so popular. Like, that's not a bad thing inherently, but it's the type of film that's so popular. Like, is there any room anymore for a film to take a chance and fail? Like, yeah, you have independent movies, but now a lot of them are also being tied to Amazon, Disney, and everything like that. Like, is there any room for people to here's the thing. I don't think Oliver Stone, Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, I don't think these people could make it in today's Hollywood. Like, but if you read about like early Martin Scorsese and stuff, there's no way he could make it in today's Hollywood. No one would accept. People would just not accept him. Because of his style, because of how he's different and how he filmed stuff, but also from where he came from, like his background and everything. You can't like. It feels like you cannot rise up because the people. I guess what people don't really realize is like with someone like Martin Scorsese or Oliver Stone, not as a good example, but he literally like created this specific genre of like New York mobster type movie because that's his heritage, right? That's what he grew up around, and I feel like now you just don't get people like that, and I feel like no one in this generation of Hollywood will be remembered like the previous generations because you'll just never make a film like that. Like I'm trying to think, what's a film? What's a film from the last 20 years? People in the comments. I'll read some comments now. What's a film from the last 20 years? People think. Actually, I won't say 20 years because people are going to say like Gladiator or something. What's a film since 2010 that's come out that people will remember, like, that isn't tied to an existing property, right? So my favourite film of all time is Blade Runner 2049, right? And I think people will remember that, like, things like Dune as well. Like, I think there are a couple of films. But people in the comments tell me, is there an original film you've seen in the last 12 years you think will be remembered like, I don't know, Goodfellas, Godfather, Apocalypse Now, Platoon, I don't know, plenty of legendary movies. Jude, I like Drive a lot. Nah, Baby Driver, no, I won't accept that. Coen Brothers movie's a good shout, actually. No Country for Old Men, Dial F for Film says that's a good one. Moxie, Inception is a decent answer. I won't accept that it will be remembered like Apocalypse Now or The Godfather though. But I do think it's. See, the thing is, you guys are giving me good. Tahaka, I said 12 years because I knew people would say Gladiator if I said the last 20 years. Nah, Empty Blood. I like that's the thing. Like I'm reading all of your things. The Joker, no, Joker, no way. The Joker's a bad parody of Scorsese movies. The Dark Knight. Well, that's longer than what I've said. I'm saying stuff that's not tied to an IP. So I'm taking a lot of your answers, and I think they're all good ones, right? Like, because the Birdman and The Revenant, they're great movies. 1917, like the craft of that movie, you can't deny like that one shot style. Lost City of Z, I really like. Hereditary is meant to be good. Tree of Life, yeah, I really like that as well. Moonfall, no, Moonfall, I think it's just like didn't even hit the cultural like mainstream. Drive is a cult classic. I wouldn't say it's penetrated the mainstream as much. And it's someone who I really love Drive as well. Yeah, so that's the thing. Like you guys are all telling me like really good movies, and like I really like a lot of the movies you're telling me. Dread was cool as well. But it's like, can you guys really like The Nice Guys? Yeah, these are good movies you're giving me. Django Unchained, these are good movies, but I'm thinking, like for example, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Django aren't going to be remembered like Pulp Fiction. Like it's not that level of like cultural penetration as well. And I'm trying to think like a lot of the things, Rise of Skywalker, a lot of the ones you're giving me, I think most people have forgotten about them already. Like Three Billboards, I really did not like that movie, and I like Martin McDonagh's previous movies like In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths. District 9's a bit older. The Hand, Unconditioning Prong. Have you listened to or read Oliver Stone's autobiography? It's really fucking good. He talks about the hand a lot in it. I'm your favorite YouTuber. Thanks so much, Ranger Gaming. Appreciate that. Elefunk. Okay, Elefunk. Here's a good example, right? The Dark Knight is obviously one. Like that's a movie that will be remembered for like ever, right? The Dark Knight is a good example. That's 2008. That's not that long ago. So the Dark Knight compared to No Country for Old Men, right? I'd say the Dark Knight is more culturally significant. Even though like probably No Country for Old Men's a better movie. But I'm trying to think: is there other? Okay, let's expand it. Okay, tell me a movie from 2000 to 2010 that has the cultural penetration of older movies. So people say Gladiator. I totally accept that. Gladiator, 100%. It is like a legendary movie. Will be remembered like some of the best ones before the turn of the millennium. Let's have some other ones though, like yeah, but the original Jurassic Park is 1993, isn't it? So I accept that. The Titanic, that's 1997. I'm talking about the year 2000 to 2010. So Lord of the Rings is a good one. So yeah, Lord of the Rings for sure. Lord of the Rings, and The Dark Knight. We've got Anthony. City of God is a seriously good choice. I would still say because it's Brazilian, most people have not watched City of God. I'm not talking about quality. I'm talking about, and I was trying to talk about like things that weren't IPs before, like Lord of the Rings and The Dark Knight obviously are. Whereas like Scorsese films aren't IPs. Oliver Stone films aren't really either. You could say they're based on stuff, but Minority Report did. Minority Report is. I don't even think it's a good movie, but like, and I like Philip K. Dick stuff, but like, I don't think it's a good movie, and it looks really shit. Like, I think like the actual sci-fi stuff just looks really weird. Obviously, it did have a big cultural significance. Finding Nemo is not a bad example. I don't think either. 300. 300. Yeah, I'd say 300 is a good example actually. The Lego Movie. Nah, The Machinist I will not accept. 2010 Scorsese. What did he release in the 2010s? Wolf of Wall Street, Irishman, and Shutter Island versus The Departed. What else did he release in the 2000s? The Departed, The Aviator. Is that Martin Scorsese? No, we're not talking about the box office. I'm talking about cultural significance. Because, like, for example, Blade Runner is literally like regarded by many people as either one of the most influential films of all time or one of the best films of all time. That did not release to critical acclaim, and it did badly at the box office. So that doesn't matter. Obviously, something like Lord of the Rings is like a combination of everything, right? It's like cultural phenomenon, makes insane money at the box office. One of the most, Lord of the Rings. Can you imagine the third movie of a fantasy trilogy winning 12 Oscars? Like, can you imagine that ever happening again? That's absolutely insane. Like, because sequels now are just so generic and boring. It's like Lord of the Rings. I respect it. I don't even think Lord of the Rings could happen today. Like, I don't know what people think in the comments. Do you think Lord of the Rings could happen today? Like that third movie especially is so fucking long. Peter Jackson movies, just like I respect them so much. Like they just do not give a fuck about the length. Like King Kong as well, which is a good movie. But it's just so fucking long. Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one for sure. Like that's up there. I can't believe it got nominated for Oscars as well. That's so bizarre, isn't it? Like because of all the crap we get now, like Doctor Strange and all these Marvel movies, you can't even imagine a movie like Pirates of the Caribbean getting nominated for Oscars, but it did. Dune, Peggy, we'll have to see with Dune. I think I still don't think it's Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings were like a different level of like cultural phenomenon than Dune. Yeah, Atomic Punk. I do not agree. Blade Runner 2049 was not unnecessary. I mean, it was unnecessary in the fact that you didn't need it to make the first one good, but I'd argue the second one's better. So, Shrek. I wouldn't say Pirates is a proto Marvel movie. The Pirates of the Caribbean is actually funny, and it's really well written. I think like the dialogue is really good. If it's based on a Disney ride, I mean, that's fair enough. But I wouldn't say there's many similarities between the ride and the actual film. I hate Disney. All right, so this just talking about directors, talking about Blade Runner. This quote made me fucking laugh my ass off. So ask Ridley Scott what he thinks of superhero movies, and he won't sugarcoat it. The best films are driven by characters, and we'll come to superhero movies after this if you want, because I'll crush it. I'll fucking crush it. They're fucking boring as shit. Scott recently told Deadline in an interview that has since drawn the ire of the MCU fans and comic book lovers on social media. Superhero movie scripts are not any fucking good. By his account, Scott has made 3 great scripted superhero movies. One would be Alien, one would be Gladiator, and one would be Blade Runner. They're superhero movies. So why don't the superhero movies have better stories? Sorry, I'll get off the rail, but I mean, come on. Superhero movies are mostly saved by special effects, and that's becoming boring for everyone who works special effects if you got the money. Fucking hell. Like, the thing is, people were giving him hate, and I just said, if he directed Blade Runner and then yeeted himself, he would still be like legendary director. If he just did Alien and then left, and he'd still be a great director. The fact that he has, I said this in my video yesterday, he has Alien, Blade Runner, Thelma and Louise, and Gladiator as like 4 great movies. Like, that is enough. But then he has some bad movies, but then he has loads of like good ones that are just like, you know, American Gangster, I think is a good movie as well. You know, Kingdom of Heaven director's cut, I think it's a solid movie as well. So it just makes me fucking laugh how out of all the directors he really doesn't give a shit about saying they're bad. But the thing is, like, I agree with his sentiment in a lot of ways, in that, you know, he's kind of talking about like it's just for me. But the thing is, I don't think he watches many superhero movies, and the fact that the special effects on superhero movies are fucking garbage. Like, what was the deal with Eternal's special effects, or like a lot of the DC films? Like, their special effects are so bad. Like, how can you spend so much money on these films and have such like atrocious special effects? But also, I will say one redeeming thing about superhero movies recently is I thought the Batman, the way it was shot was really good. Like, that car chase was really fucking cool. So maybe there's a bit of redemption there, because the Batman has a really, really distinct style, which I really appreciate. Like, it just looks so fucking dark, and people complain like, "Oh, I can't see." It's like, come on, like Dune, Blade Runner, the Batman. I just appreciate like a really fucking dark environment. So read some comments. Yeah, Dunkirk was good as well. The Counselor was on the other day, Troy. I was going to actually watch it. It was a scene between Brad Pitt and Michael Fassbender. I was kind of into it. I want to watch House of Gucci as well. Black Hawk Down, yeah, that's a solid movie as well. Chad Ridley. He could make, I know he's like 84 now or 85. He could just make 1 million more bad movies and he's still the king. So I just want to, because we're talking about Doctor Strange a bit, here's what Elizabeth Olsen had to say about also, does anyone else who grew up like in the 90s, 2000s, do you think it's funny that Elizabeth Olsen is the most famous Olsen now? Like, it must have been so weird growing up with really famous twin sisters, like actress sisters, and then you become the most famous out of all of them, like in modern times, like she's way more relevant. So she says, excuse me, I'm not saying we're making indie art films, but I just think it takes away from our crew, which bugs me. There are some of the most amazing set designers, costume designers, camera operators. I feel diminishing them with the kind of criticism takes away from all the people who do award-winning films that also work on these projects. From an actor's point of view, whatever, I get it. I totally understand there's a different kind of performance that's happening. But I do think throwing Marvel under the bus takes away from the hundreds of very talented crew people. That's why I get a little bit feisty about that. I think those comments are really interesting in that she says, from an actor's point of view, I get it. I totally understand there's a different kind of performance that's happening. I think that's really interesting in that, while I'm criticizing a lot of the technical aspects of these films, she's actually saying like, well, yeah, I get it. Like, it's not really that hard for actors, these performances, because there's not really much to most of them. Like, what's the best performance in MCU film? Like, Robert Downey Jr. in the first Iron Man film, probably. I'm trying to think of another one. I'd say that's the only Robert Downey Jr. in the first Iron Man is probably the only really good performance I think in MCU movies. I'm trying to think of another one. I can't think of another one. I literally cannot think of another one. I mean, I do enjoy Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Um, I mean, do we consider the Netflix MCU movies like series? Is that MCU? Because I like Charlie Cox as Daredevil. Yeah, I haven't watched Moon Knight yet. Nah, Ella Funk. Sebastian Stan, I think for me, he just embodies like how not that he's actors phone it in, but it's just nothing about his performance. Like I was watching The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's just not even an interesting character. Also, I really do not rate he plays Sam. Shit, I forgot. He's in fucking Altered Carbon season 2. It'll come to me. um Black Hawk Down's from 1998. I thought it was 2001. Um, Blade 2. Anthony Mackie, yeah. I'm hyped for them. Actually, that's something that interests me. Like, Mahershala Ali playing Blade, like, that is fucking perfect casting. Like, I'm hyped for that. Yeah, Jane, thanks for asking. I'm feeling a lot better. I tested negative for COVID for the first time, which is good because I've been positive for like 9 days. Yeah, I thought, yeah, Black Hawk Down 2001. That's what I thought. Yeah, Ella Funk. The problem with Falcon the Winter Soldier is that Isaiah Bradley, who's like this black Captain America who was like experimented on and put in prison. I think if the show ended with him rejecting Sam becoming Captain America, I think it would have made a way more interesting point because it's like the whole point of Sam becoming Captain America is that he's kind of struggling with that he's a black man in America trying to be the symbol of America despite the treatment of black people by like the American establishment. And then Isaiah Bradley is kind of like basically saying that he's like, they hate us and like I was Captain America and no one knows about it because they just experimented on me and then they threw me away and it ruined my life. And then he's really bitter. So then in my mind, a better ending would be like, okay, like his sister is happy for him. Bucky is happy that he's taken up the mantle of Captain America. But it would have been interesting as this like new character you've introduced who used to be Captain America, as Isaiah Bradley, is like, well, I don't accept you doing that. Like as a black man who's been treated so bad by this system in America, I do not accept you becoming the symbol of this country, like basically becoming its propaganda for this country that's treated me so badly. Because then it's obviously like an interesting perspective between two black people. Like, of course, there's plenty of black Americans who are patriotic, and despite the historic treatment of black people, they're you see this a lot with athletes who are American, like black athletes or Olympians. They are proud to be American, and they buy into this whole American exceptionalism stuff. But then there's a lot of black people like this country has always treated us like shit. It still does. Police forces, the government, the general population. And I think it's just an interesting contrast that you could have done, but then it chickened out where apparently Isaiah Bradley says some shit to him like about him not being up there with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and it's like, come on, like you were making an interesting point for a while in this show, and then at the end, apparently this guy who absolutely hates America because of what it's done to him as a black man now is okay with Sam becoming Captain America. I don't know. I think they could have done it a lot better. Yeah, I don't even mind him becoming Captain America. I just think if he's over his internal struggle to become Captain America and he's okay with it, that's one thing. But it's like, why is this other character okay with it? Like, there's nothing that you've shown me of his character that he would be happy about this. Like it seems like if you were being honest, he'd be quite pissed off about it. You should have been a script doctor for that. Yeah, hire me MCU. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think. Wait, didn't I read something that like? No, I think I got that wrong. Yeah, they chickened out Marvel being Marvel. Yeah, I don't really understand it. Like it was because it's like such a happy ending. Just give me a bit of something else in the ending. Like don't resolve it in a nice bow where you can just forget like this character has had a hard time in that Isaiah Bradley guy. Just like give me a bit more nuance. Like you know, Sam even says like I'm from the South, blah blah blah. Like I understand how bad racism is, but still, America, America, America. And it's like okay, that's one guy's perspective, but then here's another black guy saying the opposite, and then suddenly now he's the same as Sam. Like, don't get it. I haven't seen Prime Suspect. I don't really like British detective shows. I do really like True Detective though. Um, yeah, bittersweet endings. Yeah. What's my favorite kind of ending? You gotta have something. I think like happy endings are a bit boring sometimes. You gotta have something there. I don't know if anyone the all the endings of Cyberpunk the game are pretty bittersweet. Pretty good though. Yeah, Nath Downs, you're right. And also, like the stupid thing about that show was the flag smashers were like left wing anarchists, like, and they're just really demonized the whole time. Subtext is for cowards. What Neo? Do you just want? Do you want everything spoon fed for you? Subtext is so good. Like okay, like the what makes me laugh about subtext is that conservatives just cannot understand it. Like that's why I made those videos about Ben Shapiro and conservatives loving Dune, and it's like if you understood the subtext of this movie and maybe like what the director's trying to say, I don't think you'd like it as much as you think you do because yeah, but Troy, the thing is with the Metal Gear games as well, like Metal Gear both wears is very explicit but also has subtext, right? It's like um Metal Gear Solid 5 is a pretty good example, isn't it? Like the subtext of that game in this even the narrative, that the subtext is really interesting, like about cultural erasure, cultural colonialism through language and stuff. Like it's a bit, despite like the politics being explicit in terms of like child soldiers, nuclear weapons. I think like the actual like the language thing is very like well done in that game. Yeah, unconditional, like with the original Scarface movie. Neo, I think it is about hand holding. For example, like in Dune, right? Like in that movie, there's a lot of subtext about colonialism. If you have Paul Atreides stop and start ranting about how bad colonialism is, it just ruins the movie. It's like he's not meant to be that self aware. Like you have little things like he asked that man like, you know, why are we wasting all this water on the trees? And he's like, that's just the way it is. And he's like, should we change it? And he's like, nah. And then it's like if Paul Atreides then goes, oh man, like that's so bad. Colonialism is really, really wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. I'm gonna go see my father and we have a big debate about it. It just ruins the movie. The subtext of Dune is that settler colonialism is wrong, right? That's the subtext. It's not the point of the movie, at least, yeah, even though it is like Lawrence of Arabia type story. Um, but yeah, subtext, like for example, Blade Runner 2049 has pretty good subtext of like, you know, environmentalism, climate change, and things like that. Like, if you don't have subtext in a movie, like I think it's pretty like everything being explicit is just rubbish. Like I feel like most movies, like especially Marvel movies, the problem is they think all their audience are idiots, and that's why I like movies that treat their audience with more respect. And it's like you can, like, that's why I like Dune as well, because it's like we're gonna use all this Islamic language, and we're not gonna have to explain it to you. Like if you pick up on the phrases they're using in Dune, a lot of it is Islamic words that have a history in like anti-colonialism, like Mahdi, like him being called the Mahdi, right? They're not like, Paul, you are the Mahdi, and in Islam this means blah 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 blah. It's like, go type in the Mahdi Sudan, and then you can see why they talk about the Mahdi in Dune. Like it's subtext, and also, like I said to my girlfriend, Boardwalk Empire and Mad Men have really good subtext in terms of they don't treat their audiences like idiots, because there's so many references in those shows that I'm pretty good at my American history and stuff, so I pick up on a lot of the Mad Men references, but there's still stuff I don't understand, and it's like I love that those things treat their audiences like, we're not going to spell things out for you. Like, why should we? Like, you're smart enough in that you can understand half of this, or you can go research it if you want. And I hate things like there's not. I always tell me and my girlfriend both really love film. I say, what's the word I'm looking for? When people, what's the dialogue when people explain stuff? Exposition. I hate exposition in films. It's one of my main pet peeves. And it's like the only time I don't mind exposition is when you have to explain something complicated, otherwise the movie doesn't work, right? For example, Interstellar has to have some sort of exposition, because without you, the audience, understanding stuff, the movie doesn't work. Because with Interstellar, it's different, because most audience people will not have any concept of time travel, space travel, black holes. So you need to have some sort of exposition to actually explain that concept, right? It does feel a bit clunky in the movie. Like exposition, I think, always feels kind of clunky, because it's like you are talking to the audience to explain stuff to them. But I think if you don't need exposition, obviously Metal Gear games have a ton of exposition. If you don't need it, don't use it, and that's why subtext is just so much better sometimes. I will take subtext every day of the week over exposition dumps in film. Like I cannot stand when a movie, the worst thing is when it gives you an exposition dump of something that doesn't need explaining. Like you're like, most people will understand this without you explaining it. Treat your audience with like some sort of respect. Don't treat them like idiots. It literally winds me up so bad. I'm trying to think of what's the worst exposition in a film I've ever seen. Yeah, so someone's saying Eternals is pretty much 95% exposition. Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, what is. Oh my god, I thought of it. The worst exposition dump in a film is The Rise of Skywalker. Like, oh my god, holy shit, that is literally the worst exposition ever. Like, it's like it comes, the things they're saying like comes out of like nowhere. It's so crazy. Like, oh, Palpatine's return. It's like black Sith magic and stuff. Oh my god, it's so fucking bad. It's so fucking bad. Um, yeah, there's so much stuff in that movie that's, yeah, exposition dumps. I'm trying to think. There is like stuff I've criticized before, and I'm like, you didn't need to explain that, but I'm trying to think. Alfred Hitchcock films, at the end of them, they always have a massive exposition dump. Yeah, actually, that's my problem with Psycho. You know, that Alfred Hitchcock movie. I said to my girlfriend, we watched it. I said, why, I know it's a different time, but why do I need this massive exposition scene right at the end? It like ruins the whole movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Basically, it has a scene at the end where I think like detectives are talking to the people who survived and basically explaining what happened, and it's a really bizarre scene. And I'm just like, Alfred Hitchcock made movies when like Stanley Kubrick was making movies, and it's like Stanley Kubrick has like really abstract stuff sometimes, and it's like, I don't need to be told what happened in Psycho. Like I understand what's happened. Like I don't need this exposition done. I think that's one of the worst I've seen. I know it's an old movie, so I'll give it a bit more of a pass. But it's like, thank you for explaining the movie I just watched like I didn't understand it. I haven't watched the modern one. Um, So I'm reading some more comments. Somehow, the Emperor's Palpatine's returned. Oh my god, Rise of Skywalker is actually one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, Jude, I don't like Mike Lee films only because they're so fucking depressing. Yeah, Dark F a film. They should make a director's cut where it just cuts out that part from the end of it. Chandler, I would say the prequel films, like on paper, the story's really good. It's just the execution isn't great, and some of it. Um, the sequel films just are garbage. Like, I don't mind 7 and 8, but like 9 is just a dumpster fire. I hate it so much. Like, it literally made me angry watching it. I absolutely despise that film. Yeah, that's fucking Soyborn. That's what fucking Bruce Campbell said, isn't it? No, I didn't see. Do you have to see? Do you have to see Doctor Strangelove before you see Doctor Strange? So Doctor Strange is a sequel to Doctor Strangelove. Yeah, Captain Autobots. How about detective movies that have exposition dumps to explain the mystery? Yeah, I kind of hate that as well. I also hate. I don't know if you guys seen the film Prisoners. I kind of hated the ending of that film. It's another Denis Villeneuve film. I think the movie should have ended about 20 minutes earlier without explaining the ending. Yeah, so that's a Hugo Strange. Oh right, so Doctor Strange is a sequel to Doctor Strangelove and Batman Arkham City. I'm messing Neo. Doctor Strangelove is a 90 film. It's a 1950s Stanley Kubrick movie. Lucas needed an editor. Yeah, he needed me to edit. um, what's a good Metal Gear game to play for someone who's never played any of them? Nathan or Nate Downs, I'd say if you have an Xbox, you can get Metal Gear, Peace Walker, Ground Zeroes, and Metal Gear Solid 5. And they're all like chronological order. Although I would say you'd want to play Metal Gear Solid 3 first. I'd say the most accessible in terms of just all round story is Metal Gear Solid 3 because it's the earliest point on the timeline. If you'd ever want to get into it, I'd say type in Big Boss Metal Gear Solid games because I think they're the most easy to get into, and they're also some of the newer ones. So, um, Metal Gear Solid 3 is considered the best one, and it came out in 2004. But they've reworked it, so it feels a bit more modern. Peace Walker came out in 2010. It's one of my favorites, but it's a bit more limited in gameplay because it was made for the PSP. Still a solid game as well. And then Ground Zeroes and MGS5 are essentially the same game. Ground Zeroes is like a little prequel that came out the year before, so you kind of have to play it. So I'd go for that, but of course you can start anywhere. But the thing is, it's really hard to access Metal Gear Solid 4 because Metal Gear Solid 4 is only on the PS3. So that's why I say if you want to play Metal Gear, play the big boss games because then you can have some semblance of a conclusion. Whereas if you start with Metal Gear Solid 1, but the thing is, if you want to even play Metal Gear Solid 1 on a modern console, you pretty much got to play it on a PS3 as well. I'm pretty sure you can't play Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PS5 or 4. So you have to, if you have a PS3, you can play all the Metal Gear Solid games because it has all of them, even Ground Zeroes and MGS5. Um, if you have an Xbox, you can play a few of them, and Metal Gear Rising is a good one as well. Oh yeah, Parker, I need to upload this on the second channel for sure. But no, thanks so much for the $5, and I appreciate the nice words. Just join the stream. Can't wait to go back and watch this whole thing. Love to hear your takes on modern American shows, movies, and relation to politics. Yeah, thanks so much, Parker. I really appreciate that. Hopefully, I'll upload this on the second channel this before I go to bed at least. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed these ones. HD Collection is on Xbox 360 as well. Yeah. Stanley Kubrick was a playable character in Arkham City. Oh, it's 1964. I'm getting confused with is it Path to Glory, the World War One movie? No, we are talking about Marvel. I was just fucking messing with people. Doctor Strange is a sequel to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange was also a character in Metal Gear as well. Yeah, you can't fight in here. This is the war room. Yeah, got some good quotes from that movie. What's the least based Metal Gear? I'd say Metal Gear 1 and 2 are a bit more philosophical than political. Where Metal Gear 3, Peace Walker, and 5. Yeah, I'd say the Solid Snake games are more philosophical, and they have their political elements, but I don't think it's as the thing with the Solid Snake games is because it's set in like a fictional modern day, or like it's set in the future. Like Metal Gear Solid 1 is 2005, Metal Gear Solid 2 is 2009, and Metal Gear Solid 4 is 2014, but they all released before those dates. Where Metal Gear Solid 3, Peace Walker, and 5 are all set in the past, so there can be like some commentary on historical events. So I think they're a lot more political because they do comment on like historical events, whereas these games don't as much because I don't know, they're kind of focused in more modern times. Um, so yeah, the least base is probably the Solid Snake ones. Yeah, and Elefunk, I do need to watch those. I do have them saved somewhere, like on my playlist. Nate Downs, I did see recently there is a decent enough MGS4 emulator. I saw Digital Foundry having a look at it. I think it is a bit broken though in some parts. Jude, I'm still unsure if I'll play Hogwarts Legacy because of the J.K. Rowling stuff. I kind of want to play it to review the story, which seems kind of racist, but honestly, it looks good. For Harry Potter fans, it looks good that it's taken inspiration from Bully. It seems like that old Rockstar game. It feels like, um, but yeah, I think it will be good, but not sure if I'll buy it. Yeah. I think the Mandalorian was just successful because people were clamoring for Marvel, a Star Wars TV show that like kind of fit the mold of the prequels in tone, but was like its own thing. Um, but yeah, like it's my problem with the streaming service stuff at the moment is just I've said this in my stream on Saturday as well, as that what I think is going to happen with Disney Plus is what I think happened to Netflix, and it's but I'm hoping because Netflix is tanking at the moment that Disney look at that and be like, we can't go like that. Like we can't. I don't know. We can't. So basically, what's happened with Netflix is Netflix started off like Disney Plus, where they both had like really high quality shows that became popular, and Netflix even more so because a lot of its shows got quite a lot of critical and award acclaim, like House of Cards, like won Golden Globes. Orange is the New Black won loads of awards. Like they had these shows that people would subscribe for, but then probably about like 4 years ago, just everything they would release was absolute garbage. Like every film was total trash. Every series that was good was dropped after a season because it wasn't popular enough. Then you just have lots of garbage on there that is popular, like Big Mouth and shit like that. And then obviously people don't want to pay when you're putting all these anti-consumer policies and charging people more. Where Disney Plus at the moment, like I think it's actually good value for money. You have all the Simpsons, all the Futurama, all Family Guy, American Dad. You have, Mandalorian 1 and 2, all of the Clone Wars animated shows, all of Star Wars Rebels. You have Boba Fett now. Obi-Wan's coming out this month. Loki, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision. Like, even though I don't like prioritize Marvel shows, it's undeniable that, like, as someone who's watched those shows, they're decent enough quality, which I think is a good thing. But and the Obi-Wan show I think is going to be good as well, like getting Ewan McGregor back. And the thing is with these Disney shows is they bring back all the actors. Oh, Hawkeye was pretty good actually. And now I think about it, but yeah, like they bring back all the actors, so it doesn't feel like a B tier production. It's like if you've got the stars of the Marvel movies doing this TV series, like these very famous actors, then like obviously that has an appeal to people. And even with the Star Wars shows, which obviously the actors in that aren't as famous, although Pedro Pascal is famous, but like not as famous as a lot of the Marvel actors. But it just draws people in. Even having like Tamura Morrison as Boba Fett is just fun. But having like Ewan McGregor back and Hayden Christensen, and it's just at the moment you can understand why it's appealing. But what I think could happen, which I hope doesn't, maybe I do hope it does, you can see a situation where Disney just massively oversaturates their own streaming services and maybe takes a bit of the quality down a bit and then doesn't really curate it as much, and then people just get a bit sick of it, especially if they start charging higher prices, which they already are charging higher prices compared to last year anyway. So yeah, we'll see what happens. At the moment, I think it's good value and good quality. My other problem is if Marvel movies keep getting more dominant and they keep getting connected to the TV shows, I am a bit afraid that Disney is just going to crush all the other streaming services. And while it is better to have less streaming services, I think it's not better to have one that absolutely dominates, just because it has a monopoly on the film industry in a sense as well. Parker, thanks so much for another $5 super chat. I know it's a long way away, but it seems very likely Biden is a Dem 2024 nominee. Do you think 2028 is a Bernie type of candidate? Will they have a chance? Yeah, Parker, it's really, really hard to know, because Bernie Sanders is a good candidate because he has the political experience as like a mayor, a congressman, and a senator. And I just cannot think of anyone who is like him at the moment. Like, the squad are well and good in some respects, but AOC doesn't compare to Bernie Sanders, like, on the whole, electoral stage and everything like that. So I can't really see. I don't even know if 2028 is too far away, but like, I can't even imagine. Does the US even have a democracy in 2028 if Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump becomes president again with a majority in Congress and the Senate? Because they'll get rid of the filibuster if they become the majority, and then they'll just do whatever the fuck they want. So, Bits Mag TV, thanks so much for what's an R dollar? What country is that? What country has Republic of South Africa? Do they have dollars? I don't think so. But no, thanks so much, Bits Mag TV. I really, really appreciate that. And you have a comment. It's not true that Netflix have not been releasing Brazil. Brazil have dollars, do they? Oh, they have Brazilian dollar. Thanks so much, Bits Mag TV, though. It's not true that Netflix has not been releasing quality stuff. They have been releasing great local series, foreign languages from South America, from Europe, Scandinavia, but people don't care. Yeah, obviously I'm not up to date on like international Netflix series. Obviously people like that Money Heist and Squid Game. But I think by and large the Western content they're releasing is garbage. Like, what is like a good Netflix? The only good thing on Netflix is documentaries at the moment. I'm trying to think of like what's a good Western Netflix series lately. I literally cannot think of one. They're turning themselves into the hands of hotels. Yeah. Oh, Brazilian reals. Yeah, I was thinking like, why is it got a dollar? Because obviously sometimes people give me like actual other dollars. Reais, Brazilian reais. I mean, people like that. People like that. What's it? The Castlevania show. Oh yeah, he's Chilean, isn't he? Like Pedro Pascal. Oh, well, that's interesting. But George Lucas did make the Clone Wars show, so I guess he got his wish for Darth Maul to come back. Hey, Nico. Basically, I was just talking about how the cinemas are just filling up with only Doctor Strange at the moment, and just how it's basically just taking over. Rhodesian dollar. What sectors of the economy of your country would you nationalize? I don't know. Economy. I mean, fully nationalize energy would be one because it's going the prices are out of control. I don't know. State drug companies is one. Obviously, nationalised public transport, which has been privatised more and more, or even when it is nationalised, it's still half privatised. So, yeah, energy sector, gaming sector. Yeah, nationalise the gaming sector. We're gonna all the profits from the gaming sector will be put back in to the country. Cobra Kai was originally on YouTube, and I think Netflix bought it. Yeah, nationalise the health service again. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about social media, to be honest. I think it should. I don't know if social media should be completely publicly owned, only because would you really want Twitter to be subject to the First Amendment, like Elon Musk style? I mean, I'm happy, to be honest. I'm happy enough. Like in theory, YouTube and Twitter's rules and regulations, I don't think are bad. It's just the way they're implemented. And it's implemented by an algorithm. Like in theory, I don't have a problem with them. It's just the way they're used. So I wouldn't mind if like Twitter was half owned by the government or something like that, so it could reform it. But I don't think inherently there's much wrong. Like I like Twitter and things like Reddit a lot. I don't think there's much wrong with it inherently, but it's kind of like the terms of service are just not enforced equally. I don't think. Why would you not want to? Okay, in the chat, if you nationalized Twitter, if the American government nationalized Twitter, do you think that's a good or bad thing? If Twitter was subject to the First Amendment, would that be a good thing? I guess Ruru too. You just have to enforce it for American users. I guess. When I move into the US, never. Yeah, it'd be bad. I think if you could just say anything you could say in person in America, which obviously like the free speech laws are more relaxed than like the UK. Like, you know, all the racist shit you could write with no consequences, really hateful stuff, which you can write a lot of anyway, but you do get banned. Yeah, even more not. It'd be like 8chan or 4chan or Gab or some shit, wouldn't it? Like Twitter equals public bathroom wall. Yeah, that's what it probably become. Yeah, early 2000s Xbox 360 game chat society. Yeah, for sure. How long am I streaming for? It's what's gonna fucking happen though, isn't it? Like with Elon, if Elon Musk does actually do what he says, it's just gonna be like 8chan. Hey, little fox, how's it going? we don't want politicians censoring Twitter. But even let's say they don't censor it. Let's say like they say Twitter is subject to the First Amendment, and it's like, okay, there's no rules basically now. So I don't think that's a good idea. But maybe part public ownership just to like regulate it better wouldn't be such a bad thing. Okay, but the thing is, it also means you've got to trust the US government. I'm talking about like in theory about nationalization. Not that I really trust like a Republican government to do something good with an ownership stake in Twitter. Yeah, Ahmed COD just doesn't change ever. Oh, you had your first online debate this week on the weekend. What did you debate about? So for the rest of the week, I might leave this Marvel video. I want to make a Marvel video about this topic. Um, I might leave it for a couple of weeks though. But I don't know if any of you have seen. Okay, who in the chat has seen the Daily Wire's new like Ben Shapiro clone? It's like a 20-year-old girl, like an actress. And she even fucking looks like Ben Shapiro, and she's basically doing like Daily Wire videos now. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. I might do a video on her tomorrow. I just need to watch some of her content first, and then what's the other video I want to do this week? I kind of want to do one on conservative comedians, but I really don't want to watch any conservative comedy. I cannot handle people having a bad stand-up routine. Like, makes me cringe so hard. But I know it will make a good video, but I just can't bring myself to do it. Is it his sister? No, it's not his sister. She somehow looks more like him than his sister does. No, she's not blonde. She's dark hair. Oh, against Eastern Orthodox, is America regressing due to the left? I'm guessing they believed it was. Sure. Hey, how bad is the energy crisis in the UK and how is it affecting you? I mean, it's not like massively affecting me, but it is really bad. Just like prices going absolutely out of control, like 120% increases sometimes. Petrol's really fucking expensive. It has been like you couldn't even get petrol a couple months ago. So yeah, it's been really shit. And obviously, us not having as much nationalized energy as other European countries means they can just keep making so much money off us. The Bill Maher video was good. Thanks. Yeah, that was a fun one to make. It wasn't monetized, so I made no money off it. But yeah, it was a good one to make. Didn't take too long. I enjoyed it, and yeah, glad it got a lot of views as well. Illegitimate sister. How is your public transportation in the UK? London public transportation is really good. Obviously, you have the tube, and then you have Southwest trains, which is like that's a lot of the country though. Southwest trains, which is pretty good as well. Not saying it's cheap because it's not, but it is a good public transportation network. Like way better than anything in America. Where I went to uni had a good one as well in the south. Apparently, though, a lot of northern places have really crap public transport. The problem with England is just a lot of things are just focused on London specifically. So they just built a new tube line, the Elizabeth line, which goes a bit further out, I think, to Reading, which is like a town nearby London, but like a lot of commuters go there. So yeah, it is really good, the public transport in London, but it's just getting way too expensive now. Is it fully private? It's not. The TfL, Transport for London, I think it used to be publicly owned, and now it's either half or more privately owned. And I think they do the buses as well. So the mayor makes a lot of the rules for it. But I think it's half and half now. I know people who work for it. Some regional rail has been renationalised by the Tories, but it's not like proper nationalisation. I think Northern Rail, because it just ran like shit. Southwest Trains, I'm pretty sure, is privatised as well. Oh man, it's good they're on strike though. When I first started work in 2019, Southwest Trains went on its biggest strike ever. It went a month of strikes. It took me like 2.5 hours to get to work and 2.5 hours back because I had to get like 2 buses and the tube instead of one Southwest train and one like 2-minute tube. Yeah, Ella Funk. She's an actress as well. Like she's still an actress. She's not like. I think the video. I'm also going to talk about how Ben Shapiro is a failed screenwriter and Michael Knowles is a failed actor. Oh, nice little fox. You put your 2 weeks notice in. Oh, what content are you going to be focusing on? Twitch primarily or other stuff too? It's always fun meeting Brits in America. There's a British bar in Minneapolis that I frequent there. Union Jacks everywhere. Jude, I thought you'd wanna escape the Brits though. See you later, Nath. Buses are good in Scotland. Yeah, I didn't use when I just drove around Scotland. I didn't use much public transportation. Although rural Scotland is not fun to drive around because the roads are so small. You're moving to Turf Island. Oh, nice. Why are you moving here? Isn't Valdez? Isn't Ben Shapiro just a massive simp for Christopher Nolan? Didn't he? Doesn't he say stuff like Martin Scorsese and like Francis Ford Coppola are like overrated or something? I lived in NYC for 26 years, the only decent train system in the country. Yeah, and also the New York subway is still really shit as well. That's the funny thing. Like it's literally one of the best in America, and it's still crap. Like the London one is so much better. The thing on the New York one, it's just like falling apart, and it's just filthy. Like you watch those old movies where they're on it, and it's so dirty, and you watch stuff today. I mean, in Mr. Robot, you see the subway a lot. The New York one is filmed a lot down there, and it's just like it's still so dirty, and also like all that flooding and just like the infrastructure and everything. If you enjoy documentaries, there's a cool dino doc coming out by the name of Prehistoric Planet. Maybe out of your wheelhouse, but dinosaurs. Aaron, thanks so much for the 5 Canadian. Really appreciate that. Um, yeah, dinosaurs I do really enjoy like sometimes, but it's not a massive focus for me. I do like learning about the Earth during that time period though. Is this on Netflix or is it like Amazon or something? But it does sound interesting. Yeah, Mian Yan. Thanks so much for the $7 Canadian. Fun Marvel trivia. Slight while back, Disney mandated Marvel to remove and replace the X Men with the Inhumans as X Men movie rights were held by Fox. Yeah, Meow. I remember this because I used to watch Agents of Shield, and the Inhumans were like a big part of that show. And then of course you had the Inhumans like show came out as well and bombed really hard. And then obviously they eventually bought Fox anyway, so they just get to use the X Men, but they still have the Inhumans in there. But yeah, they wanted to use the Inhumans as like a stand-in for mutants, didn't they? And now they don't have to. Interesting though, but now they just own everything. Atomic Punk, nah, I support Real Madrid all day over Liverpool. I want Liverpool to win nothing this season. I don't think public transport in America makes me so sad. Being on it my whole life, I can get around, but it's so space in such high population areas, especially LA. Fucking hate car culture out here. Yeah, it's crazy in America. Like I read those threads where people you can't walk anywhere, which is crazy, and there's like no shops in certain areas. Like you just have fast food outlets, or you got to drive really far to go to like a Costco or something like that. It's actually crazy how poorly America is built. Like the planning for like suburbs is so crap. I'm doing research into cults and psychology. Wait, is this asking what I asked you? To do a video essay on a debate bro culture and the internet communities. That's interesting, little fox. Are you using? Do you have a YouTube channel? I know you do Twitch. Is that going to be on YouTube? I remember Chicago's public transportation because of the game Watch Dogs, where you can like hack the train and you just get on it. What team do I support? So I support, like, it's weird. I support Man United and I support Brentford. So basically, Brentford's like my local team, and I used to go there a lot when I was a kid, growing up. And then I kind of stopped for a bit, and then started going back when they got into the Championship. And now we have a season ticket, or we have had a season ticket for a couple of years. So I went to Brentford versus like Spurs the other day. But then because my dad supported United, we all support United as well. So it's really weird supporting two teams in the Prem, because Brentford used to be in League Two. So like I would never think in a million years that like Brentford would be in the Premier League, but it's actually fucking crazy they are. But so I don't really mind. I know people say you can't support two, but like it's like Brentford is such a small club. It must be the smallest in the Prem. Can't think of anyone smaller. The only team that's smaller that's sometimes in the Prem is Bournemouth, I think. So yeah, it's great to go to the Brentford games, and see Prem games and stuff. Yeah, Logan's decent. Meow Nian, I can see them bringing back the Inhumans at some point, but yeah, the Eternals is a weird one as well. Oh, okay. YouTube's only for old VODs at the moment. Yeah, that'll be good then. Make sure you post it on all the subreddits like mine and more importantly, BreadTube. Burnley is smaller. Yeah, maybe. Brentford used to be okay. They've won the league at least once. Best club. Are the Socceroos a club? I thought that was the name for Australia's national team. St. Pauli. Yeah, St. Pauli are cool though as well. Yeah, Northern English people are more laid back. I do like how Southern English people just are very private though. Yeah, Neo, I can't eat them until I get 100k, so I think we'll be waiting for a lot longer. Got 26k to go. Let's see if we can do it this year. Yeah, I wish I saw Logan in black and white. I know they were showing that for a bit. That sounds really cool. Oh, it's just hit me. I think I'm still a bit tired from COVID, to be honest. I might have to wrap this up. All right, I think I'll wrap it up now. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining the stream. I'm going to make another video tomorrow, hopefully, on Ben Shapiro's sister. And then Friday, I don't really know. I might do conservative comedy, or I might do something about like George Carlin versus conservative comedy. I don't know. Might be interesting. But yeah, thanks so much for joining the stream. So check out yesterday's video on Susan Sarandon if you haven't. Hopefully I'll upload this archive on my second channel. I need to get back into doing that. And yeah, and then look out for tomorrow's video, and I'll probably stream again on Thursday as well. Don't know what we're going to talk about. But yeah, that is pretty much everything for this. So yeah, thanks everyone for leaving your comments. I enjoy the conversation. Always like talking about films. And yeah, talk to everyone